Greetings, brothers and sisters. Hello and welcome back to Witches of the Moon. I'm Eva Maria, your Monday hostess for this season. This is season 7, a new season, and for this week we're going to be discussing shadow work. So, a lot of you may have heard the term shadow work, and while I think maybe a good amount of you have a decent understanding of it, there might be some among you who are like, what exactly is shadow work? You know, I hear this buzzword from time to time, but what exactly is it? What's the deal with shadow work? Well, in a nutshell, if I had to sort of sum it up, I guess I would say that shadow work is a process in which we face parts of ourselves that are not in flow for whatever reason. It's very much a process of objective introspection. The key word, of course, being objective. It's a period of self-assessment, I think, and realignment, you know. So there's that. That's what it essentially is. And some people might have the sort of sense that the time to do such work would be, you know, maybe when things are not very good in one's life. But that's not always the case because, you know, shadow work, it doesn't have to only come about in times of crises. You know, it's not like, oh my God, everything's wrong, everything's going bad, time for some shadow work. Shadow work really is a process, you know, a tool, a journey toward self-betterment, self-healing. And that can honestly be done at any time. You know, you can be doing well in your life, but you may feel like, well, even though things are going pretty well, I feel like there's still room for improvement, or I want to just be like the best me that I can be. So in that case, one might say, let me just kind of, you know, embrace a process of shadow work. Look within, you know, find what's not exactly flowing very well right now. Let me put that back into better alignment. Let me kind of address some things. Now, there is no particular right or wrong way to go about shadow work. It's not like there's even any one way to do it. There are many different ways. I think what's most important is just really being honest with yourself, really finding those aspects within yourself that are just not harmoniously flowing. These can be what some might call, I don't like to use the word flaws, but these could be what some might term as character flaws or weaknesses or fears or, you know, anything that maybe within the self, you know, sort of holds you back or affects you in an adverse way or potentially even affects others in an adverse way as well, or, you know. Sometimes though, sometimes shadow work, it's about, you know, acknowledgement and conscious changes. Sometimes it's like, okay, this isn't right, and this is what I'm going to do to address that. And then sometimes shadow work is about acknowledgement and letting go, because there are things that we can't control, or things that, let's say, maybe like, for example, something you can't control, you have no control over it, or it might be something that has happened in the past, you can't undo it, but sometimes you have to process what happened, be it through grief, be it through whatever, you know, coming to terms just in some way, shape, or form, acceptance, you know, coming to a place of acceptance and then just releasing whatever it is that has really hurt you or bothered you on a deep level, and thus affected you over the years. But I do also want to take a moment to point out that shadow work is not a justification for like negativity or for parts of ourselves that are sort of wounded or not quite right, or parts of our lives for that matter. It's not like, oh, well, you know, I had I have such and such going on within me on a deep subconscious level, this whatever such and such thing is going on. So that's why I'm a jerk to people and that's okay. That's not what shadow work is for. Shadow work, it's about, I feel, identifying and addressing aspects of the self and of one's life that need attention in some way in order for healing to happen, in order for a better balance, a better sense of balance to be achieved, in order for, be it something like closure or integration to happen, you know. Sorry, I'm looking at my notes. I'm thinking of what else do I want to say. I think, I mentioned how shadow work, there's not really a particular process. And it's not like, you're right or wrong to go about it in a particular way. But I think maybe the greatest starting point is to acknowledge. Just like, for example, in the case of people who are addicted to a substance, be it alcohol, drugs, whatever, or maybe even people with serious behavioral issues or whatever it happens to be. Until you can admit that something is wrong, until you acknowledge it, you're not going to be in a place to do anything about what's going on that's not right. So I feel that maybe a good starting point to shadow work would be to identify what is not in flow. What is not conducive to your health and well-being overall, and why. And it may not be easy to answer those questions for yourself. It may not readily come to you, the answers that you're looking for in terms of like where the root of something, where the root of, let's say, a problem or an issue or a feeling lies. That might not be very clear. And it's not just going to necessarily come to you, but it's something that I think will take some exploration and some time to really get to the root of. And during your journey into shadow work, however you come to approach it, be it, through self-help books, be it through, work with a counselor, which is honestly, I would suggest working with a counselor would be very helpful, be it a spiritual counselor or be it a more traditionally trained counselor. That's always something that I think would be quite helpful. But however you choose to kind of pursue your journey of looking inward into those shadow aspects of yourself in your life, there are things that I feel would help very much, such as, for example, journaling, getting your feelings out, sometimes even setting a journal aside for a little while and then revisiting it a little later, with objective eyes, kind of like, okay, if I didn't write this, if someone else wrote this, like, what would my impression be? What is this? What is this entry in this journal saying to me? Sometimes like, introspecting in that respect, I think can be very helpful. Also meditation, meditation definitely exploring in that respect things that, again, the answers may not be so clear, so quickly. They may not come to you right away. Divination can be a helpful tool. There are things that we may not be able to identify easily, but maybe divination can sort of bring certain things to the fore that we should be aware of. And if you feel that you can't read for yourself because you're a little too close to the situation, if you feel that you can't be objective per se, you can always find someone who you feel you can trust to read for you, be it a friend, be it a professional reader, whatever. Holistic healing, I think, always complements very much shadow work, because shadow work in itself is a process of healing. It can be painful, it can be frightening sometimes, it can be uncomfortable, but ultimately the goal is healing. So whatever holistic healing methods you might want to use to help you get there, be it crystal work, be it, aromatherapy, be it acupuncture, be it, whatever it happens to be. I feel that holistic healing methods, natural healing methods, also spiritual healing methods, these can very much complement the process of shadow work, in my opinion. Also, communication, I feel, is a very helpful tool. Discussing your journey with people you can trust, with people that won't judge you, with people that won't go and scream to the mountaintops things that you tell them. I think that the ideal person to speak to, or people to speak to, would be someone or some people who can respect your journey, can respect your privacy, and who understand the gravity of what you're going through. Whether it be, let's say, a spiritual counselor, a spiritual healer, a traditional counselor, friends, family members, people within, let's say, a coven or group or circle or whatever that you're part of. Just, you need support. I think support is very important. And again, introspection. Introspection is very, very, very helpful. You can go through motions all you want of practices that people say will help you get to the core of things within yourself that are not quite in flow. But unless you're really like soul searching and really looking at yourself in a way where you are being objectively analytical and, really hunting and rooting through your inner stuff to kind of find what's not quite like balanced, what's not quite healed, what's not quite on the level. Unless you're doing that, you can read all the self-help books you want. You can talk to all the healers you want, and nothing's going to change unless you really are searching inside yourself and doing the work, the actual work. So I think, judging from my notes, I think these are the main things that I did want to mention in regard to shadow work. I'm going to have some links for you in the description of this video. Just some videos that I have on, or not my own necessarily, but some videos that I've come across that I feel might be helpful to anyone who is interested in the topic of shadow work. And of course, as always, I encourage you to stay tuned this week. Check out everyone else's videos on the topic of shadow work. See what everyone else has to say. We always bring forth our different sort of views and thoughts and ideas and understandings of the topics that we discuss. And, being that there's no one way and there's no one approach, there's no right or wrong here, I think hearing a wide array of input, a wide array of sort of voices, on this topic would be helpful to you. So, yeah, I guess this is my video. I hope it shed some light on some things, and until next week, until next time, I'm going to wish you all blessed be and ashe. For those of you who will be undertaking some shadow work at any point soon, I wish you many blessings and a lot of luck in finding the answers and the healing that you are going to be seeking. Or, if you're on your journey now, I wish that for you now. And, I wish you well as you look for center. So, yeah. Bye-bye for now.